here's the Zoom Q8N. It's just been released, and I'm going to give my initial impressions of this camera and compare it to the previous model. And then also at the end of this video, I'll do some test footage where I'm going to put these cameras neck and neck so you can see what they look like in identical scenes. I'll make more videos in the future if I end up liking this camera, and I'll test everything else out as well with the audio and then all of the wireless, or not the wireless, the wired streaming capabilities to use this as a webcam. But okay, my initial reaction to this camera, the reason why I bought it is because it's such a bizarre design. I haven't seen anything like this. I haven't seen anything like the first version, but Zoom is making a strange video options which are meant for musicians. That's what the video camera and Zoom, they're geared towards musicians, not filmmakers, even though the marketing and some of the box says it's for filmmaking and live events and all that stuff. It really isn't. It's really just for musicians and anyone who wants to record a live musical event. So if you're a musician, you want to record your rehearsals for a band, then this is the camera to look at. Also, what I was interested in is the webcam functionality of it. So here on this side, there's a USB-C, and it comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable. You plug that in, and then when you turn it on, there's a webcam feature, and then you push that setting, and then this becomes a web camera, and you can use both the video and the audio to record music for maybe a live stream. If you want to live stream your live performance, musical performance through Zoom or any of those other video services, online video services, you can do that using this device. Unfortunately, you can't record internally and stream at the same time unless Zoom has released a firmware update since the recording of this video, but I don't think you can do that. But let me give you first a walkthrough of this camera, and I'll dive into things that I already like and don't like. This is a very cheap construction, by the way. This does not feel premium. It's an all plastic build. Even this microphone XY module, all plastic. There's some weight to it, but it's still plastic, and it just does not look like it's going to last. If you compare something like this to their Zoom's audio recorders, here is a Zoom H5, and the plastics, this is the type of cheaper plastics that over time they become sticky, and there's a sticky residue because these are coated somehow with some kind of plastic coating. Over time they wear out and they become very sticky. The Zoom H5 is no exception. This has gotten really sticky, and I'd had to get some alcohol wipes and just wipe down all the stickiness, that layer of stickiness. It still hasn't gotten out, but that's just a common design problem with these cheaper devices. But this feels, yeah, they feel almost the same quality, but the H5 and the other audio recorders, they feel a little bit more sturdier than this camera. And then on this side, you would think this is where you flip out the LCD, but it's not. This is the battery compartment, and this uses the same battery as the Q8, the first model. And I'll do a side-to-side comparison as well right after I go through the body here. On the bottom, you have quarter 20, nothing else. The top, you have the single record button. I don't think there's another button that you can record, so you have to hit that button. There's a speaker when you're playing back. And then in order for this to go up, there's a button here. You push the button and it goes up. There's only two positions it could be in. That closed position and then this position. And let me go on this side. Here you have two XLR inputs with the controls, the input gain. You have a headphone jack and a headphone amplifier here to go up and down in your headphones. Here is an HDMI. It looks like a micro HDMI and then a USB-C. On the back is a really small screen, and it's not a touch screen, but there's buttons here where you can cycle through the menus and all the features. It's really intuitive, more intuitive than I thought it was going to be. And it's a pretty decent screen. When you flip it here, there's the power button. That's the only way you can turn the camera on and off. And then here, these buttons here, you can select whether you want to use up here or the XLRs or a combination. And then you can also get phantom power, and it looks like you have a pad. So if you're in a really loud environment, if you're recording a rock band, you would want to turn that pad down to a negative 20 dB, so that way you're not blowing out the preamps here. The LCD flip out LCD screen here, it doesn't articulate. It doesn't go 360 this way. It only goes like this, which I think is fine, but I wish it flipped around with a hinge. I think Zoom just wants you to put this on a tripod and just point it in one direction. You can't handhold this camera. I tried to, but just like the previous model, this is meant to be on a tripod. There's no image stabilization as well. So if you want to go handheld, it's not going to be steady. And there's really no clean way to hold this. So you would have to either rig it out if you want to go handheld. Maybe you can have a pistol grip. If you have one of those pistol grips, you can do that. But I think they just want you to put this on a tripod, which is fine. That's how I would use it. This top module here, they're interchangeable. So this one can pop out, and you could put on the other Zoom accessories that fit this. However, some of them don't, and I'll get into now comparing the Q8N or the 8N to the regular 8. The regular 8, I've had this regular 8 Q8 for a while. I just never done a review for it because this camera's really bad. This is a terrible camera. I got it just because it was on sale, and I was really curious about this. It's such a weird and freaky looking camera, but I just had to get it. And upon using it, it's trash. The main thing the reason why this sucks is that the LCD screen here, this flip out one, which I wish was on here, this is the worst LCD screen. I think what's happening is I have a defective unit when I bought it, and I just didn't realize it. So see, when I shake it, see it wiggling around like that? I don't think it's supposed to do that. And when I turned it on, let me turn this one on. You can't see it very well on this camera, but this is a completely washed out LCD screen. It's as though the LCD screen got damaged and something's wrong with it, because what I see on the LCD screen is not what the footage looks like when I see it playing back on my computer. I could barely see this outdoors. Something's wrong here. I don't think this is how the camera shipped. So do you see already just on this screen, the quality, or at least the colors and the saturation? So this table here, this is, a tan brown table. And then on the screen, it looks tan and brown. But on this screen, it looks white or washed out. This is just a crappy screen. It's a bigger screen, but it's not great. So that was the main reason why it was unusable to me. And the only reason why I kept this is that I couldn't get a refund, number one. And also, since this is as well a USB digital to analog to digital interface, this has a USB 2.0 right there. And you can connect this one into your computer, and you can use this as audio analog to digital converter. So you can have you can put in some mics for if you're doing a podcast or you're on a Zoom call. You can use this at least for the digital to analog to digital conversion. This is also a webcam, but it's been pretty funky when I've tried to use this as a webcam. Not everything works. Sometimes the audio works, but not the video, and sometimes the video works, but not the audio. I don't know what's going on. I really think I just got a lemon, and I can't get a warranty or a refund because I've had it for a while now. This is 2K and this is 4K. The 4K, when you see later on in this video, when I do the quality comparison, you'll see that the 4K is better. This one's wider, this one's longer, and it's an interesting placement of the XLR. And I don't know why the Q8N doesn't have the TRS. So the Q8 has both XLR and TRS. So if you're a guitar player or a keyboardist and you have your keyboard cables or your guitar cables, you can plug directly in here and perform live stream and all that stuff. But now you can't do that with the Q8N. In this case, it looks like there's a downgrade. But I guess you can get their attachment, and there might be an attachment that allows you to connect TRS. But in this case, if you're a guitar player or somebody who uses those kinds of cables, TRS cables, and you wanted to plug in a TRS, you'll have to get some kind of adapter. Or in this case, you would just want to get the 8, not the 8N. That's the only advantage I see actually with these cameras, the TRS cable connection. Otherwise, on here you have to flip out your controls here, so it's not easily accessible. I think they made the accessibility of all the buttons and stuff better in the Q8N, but I think the TRS, I'm very curious why they did not put that on the 8N. There's a completely different design of the module, the XY modules that it comes with. So here is the Q8 version, and then here is the 8N version. The 8N version is bigger, but it doesn't seem like an improvement over the 8. The Q8 was already cheap feeling and looking, but at least you had somewhat of an attempt to look premium. The 8N just looks like a plastic, very cheap. And if you compare this to let me get my H5. Here's my H5, and the H5 ships with this module, the XY module. Now this feels expensive. This is the XYH5. This one feels really good, and it's a good quality microphone. And these just don't feel the same quality. But you could take the module from the H5 and then plop it on the Q8N. Just do that. There you go. So even though it ships with something that doesn't look as premium, if you're in the Zoom ecosystem, you could put on their accessories. I also have the Zoom F1. The F3 is coming out soon with the XLR version of that. I'm gonna get that as soon as that gets released. But I got the shotgun mount here. Here's the shotgun mic. There's a few shotgun mics that Zoom has with their modules. So I put that out, and I can now swap them off and put this one on here. There you go. And as soon as you swap on the various modules, the camera automatically detects which one it is, so it'll switch everything internally, so you don't have to do much. That's what that looks like. Take that off. Let's see here. Yeah, so this one is the Q8 version. I'm putting it on the Q8N. That's fine. Works. But if you have, I don't know anybody else who would have both of these cameras. I think I'm the only one on the internet who has this stuff. But the Q8N, this XLR module, does not fit on the Q8 because it's too big. It physically can't go in there because it's too big to fit in here. Can't do it. I could force it, but I don't want to break anything. I don't want to break the electronic components. So lens caps are awful. This one is just this silicone, and you just put it over there. This one has a lens hood. Here's the box, and here are the accessories that this comes with. It has a GoPro mount and all of this stuff. There's a foam windscreen that goes on here. which you do need. When I took these out to film with, the mic capsules are very sensitive to wind. If you're indoors and you don't have some kind of fan blowing on it, you're fine. You don't need the windscreen. But when you're outdoors, not only should you always use that windscreen, you might need the dead cat to put on there if you have a lot of wind. With the Zoom 8N, the lens cap is better than the silicone one on the 8, but it's still crappy. It's not a very good lens cap. What's also not good with this is here's the lens hood that ships with this camera, but you can't use the lens hood and the lens cap at the same time. It's either one or the other. So if you want to put the lens hood on, you can put it on, but then the lens cap can't fit over there. There's nothing to do. Put on there. Can't do it. Impossible. So when you want to put the lens cap back on, you got to take off the lens hood and then put on the lens cap. And it looks like there's some lanyards here, and you just tie the lanyards to the body. So you just take one off, put one on, take the other one off, and they're just hanging with the lanyard. Weird. Why would you do that, Zoom? Why? There's a very clear audio bar. I love this audio bar. And you can see on the side, let me turn down my camera that I'm recording on here so you can see this better. Right across from these options on the LCD screen is a button that you can push to change those options. So here, in this case, on the very top here, you can choose the field of view. So right now, it's 150 degree field of view. The Q8 was 160 degrees, which is very wide, and it ended up being a fisheye look, which a lot of people did not like because it distorted too much. Here, there's a little less distortion, but it's still a little bit distorted. But if you wanted to zoom in, here you can zoom in. I think there's 4 modes that you can zoom. And it's not an optical zoom, it just zooms in digitally. So if you're in a very dark environment and you're going from the wide to the zooming in, you're just degrading the quality of the video by doing that. Over here, there's auto. There are no manual controls for the video at all. I can't even control the white balance. But here, there's presets that is built in. So if you're indoors, choose the indoor. If you're outdoors, choose the outdoor. And you can just go or just leave it on auto. There's no controlling or locking the exposure. It's just going to do whatever it's going to do. Here, normal, this to me is like the gain. So if you go low, it decreases the gain. High goes high gain. That high, low, normal is not on the Q8. That's new for the Q8N. And on this side, you can choose your frame rates. When I'm in 4K, I can only do 30, 25, and 24. But when I go down to 1080, I can now go all the way up to 60 frames. But you just want to stick to 4K. You don't want to go 1080. Down here, you can choose the audio quality. I'm choosing the highest quality, which is 96 kilohertz 24-bit. Then down here, you can go into your settings, and there's not a lot of things you could change here. You can format the SD card. You can go into the information, hit the USB mode, and you can swap between whether you want to use this as a webcam. But then once you plug in the USB cable and connect that to your computer, there's already going to be a warning that asks you if you want to just use this as a way to just access the card or use this as an audio interface. Another difference is here, this camera takes micro SD cards, and I like how you can access the flap pretty easily. This is a pretty easy access to the micro SD card. I don't mind the micro SD card in a camera of this size. And the way you access it is pretty easy. It's not like those GoPros where you have to, if you don't have fingernails, you can't get it. This is pretty easy. On the Q8, there is a full-size SD card, and that's on the bottom. And this bottom, the flaps, very bad design here. This could either break or just by opening it multiple times to access the SD card, it's gonna do some wear and tear, and it's just, I don't like the way it's built. And it's also on the bottom, so they want you to put this camera on a tripod. But if you had this on a tripod and you needed to change the SD card, you have to go take off the plate of the tripod and then remove it. But on this side, they figured out the design that nobody wants to do that. So now it's right here, easy and accessible, and it's maybe a better card for a lot of people, the micro. So I will show some test footage between these cameras, and then that's it. If I end up really liking this camera, which I don't know if I will, I might use it more as just show its webcam capabilities, because once you use that as a webcam, then this could be worth it to purchase. But yeah, if I don't end up liking this, I'm not gonna do a follow-up review. Anyways, here is some test footage between these two cameras. Okay, now I'm recording in full auto, and I zoomed out the Zoom Q8 and the Q8N as wide as they could go. And this is indoors in pretty good lighting, but there's some harsh light coming in from the window and the door. The Q8N recording, I'm trying to match the same framing, but they're different, slightly different focal lengths. I have them set to the preset outdoor, whatever the outdoor scene file is. So they're both at the outdoor scene file right now. Time to show all of the different focal lengths. Okay, that's one zoomed in. Two zoomed in. Two zoomed in. Three zoomed in. Three zoomed in. I wouldn't say I'm in the lowest lighting situation, but this is a pretty low light situation. And they're both pointing at this color chart, so I can see what the colors look like in low light. I'm not really dark like in a concert, but this is dark. This is a pretty dark setup I have right now. And this is at they're both max wide. And now I'm gonna go into the telephoto to see how the telephoto crop in affects the grain in a low light situation. I'll do the Q8N first. Going through all the telephoto modes. Oops. There you go. And then let me do the Q8 now. There you go. So this is what both cameras look like in their max zoom, their max telephoto, with the digital zoom, there's not optical zoom. And they're both on auto night mode. This is the preset night mode on both cameras. However, with the Q8N, you also have a secondary feature that adds brightness. So let me toggle through that. The Q8 doesn't have this, but the Q8N does. So right now it's on normal. Now it's on low mode. And now that's high. That's high gain. The Q8 does not have these three settings of brightness. Now this is the Q8 and the Q8N. It's at their most widest field of view, and it's on auto, complete auto, with as far as the scene files go. And now I'm in a well-lit room. Here's a color chart. I have on some LEDs, some daylight balanced LEDs that are on right now that aren't the brightest, but this is enough light for your average interview shot, or if you're just recording yourself indoors, this is the amount of light I would have. Just for comparison, here's what it'll look like if I turn this LED spotlight. I'm gonna now shine it. I have it diffused. It's bouncing off of some white walls and some mirrors. But I'll show you what it looks like and how the cameras compensate when the LED light is just pointed directly at this color chart here. Now that's pretty harsh light that is pointing directly at that color chart. And this is a daylight balanced light color temperature. Let's zoom in on the focal lengths again. I'll start with the Q8. Zooming all the way in. There's max telephoto. And then now on the Q8N, zooming all the way in. And there's the max telephoto of the Q8N. Let's see what happens. I'm going to leave it on telephoto, but now I'm going to turn that LED spotlight. I'm going to turn it back to more of a diffused lighting setup. We'll see how both cameras adjust their auto exposure. Okay, there you go. This is more indirect, bounced light, diffused light. See how the gain changed on either camera.